Good evening, viewers, and welcome back to this week's program, Making the Case. My apologies for the late start. Let me also give a warm welcome to those who are joining us on Facebook Live. Tonight, we will be taking an in-depth look at the appeals that were heard last week at the Caribbean Court of Justice. The appeals in the Zulfikar Mustafa versus the Attorney General of Guyana, also known as the Gecom Commissioner case that was held on May 8th, 2019, last week, and the consolidated appeals on the no confidence motion that was heard on May 9th and 10th. Joining me in the discussion tonight is Mr. Dion Young. You may remember him. He's a fellow comrade. Welcome again, Dion.
Thank you.
Nice to have you back on the program. We're going to dive straight into the arguments because, we had a late start. As a matter of convenience, we are going to take the cases in the order in which they were heard at the CCJ. So we will take each case by itself, and we will examine the arguments, and we encourage the viewers to call in and give us their perspective on what they would have seen and heard last week when the lawyers for the opposition we presented our case and the government presented their case. Now, the article of contention in the Gecom Commissioner case, Article 161.2, let me just read it verbatim for our viewers. So 161.2 says this: subject to the provisions of paragraph 4, the chairman of the Elections Commission shall be a person who holds or who has held office as a judge of a court having unlimited jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters, or a court having jurisdiction in appeals from any such court, or who is qualified to be appointed as any such judge, or any other fit and proper person to be appointed by the President from a list of 6 persons not unacceptable to the President, submitted by the Leader of the Opposition after meaningful consultation with the non-governmental political parties represented in the National Assembly. Provided that if the Leader of the Opposition fails to submit a list as provided for, the President shall appoint a person who holds or has held office as a judge of a court having unlimited jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters in some part of the Commonwealth, or a court having jurisdiction in appeals from any such court, or who is qualified to be appointed as any such judge. Now, Article 161.2 deals with 2 requirements. So there is the eligibility requirement, whereby the person nominated must either be a judge, eligible to be a judge, or any other fit and proper person. And while there is no clear requirement of what no clear meaning of what fit and proper person is, one can imagine that you're describing somebody who has independence of mind, who has integrity, who's impartial, etc. The second requirement is that the person must be not unacceptable to the President. Seems simple enough, but yet we had the case go through all of our courts here in Guyana, and now we are at the CCJ. What are your thoughts on this Gecom Commissioner case?
The thing is this: if it costs the mind that a couple of when Desmond White was opposition leader, he would have submitted a couple of names, and everybody there weren't judge. Mm-hmm. Because David Granger was on that list, mm-hmm. and he was not a judge. Mm-hmm. But at the time, he was deemed as a person who was fit and proper.
Right.
At that time. Mm-hmm. And the mere his name was submitted, the idea was being respected. So to say the person has to be, it's not a, it gives you a criteria. The person could be a judge, or another person who's fit and proper.
Right.
And there were 18 names submitted by Mr. Chaldeo.
Correct. And all of whom one could argue is fit and proper. The other major concern in that case is that the president never offered reasons for why he found these persons, 18 persons, not only 6, but 18 persons, unacceptable. So he never gave the reasons for that, and that was a major problem. It caused a lot of confusion. He did send a list of requirements, and then after the leader of the opposition submitted a second list, he then claimed that he still didn't make the requirements. So one has to ask if the president ever intended to select a person from a list submitted by the leader of the opposition.
In this whole thing, right, I can't remember hearing from anybody. Joe Singh was on one of that list. Joe Singh was a former chairman already.
Mm-hmm.
And he was submitted by the opposition leader.
We've had
He was
four
submitted
chairpersons submitted in this way, nominated and selected in this way. I would like to play a recording on this same issue. This is an exchange between one of the lawyers for the government side and the judges on the CCJ. Have a look.
The leader of the opposition presents that list, agreed with the president,
Yes, Your Honor.
as the candidates, and then he leaves the office.
Yes.
Would it be unreasonable in those circumstances to say that the president is obliged to choose one of those 6?
That is where it becomes an embattled area. That is where it becomes difficult, because it entitles the leader of the opposition to leave that transaction, feeling quite reasonably that one of his nominees not only will be appointed, but has to be appointed.
And what is wrong with that?
Exactly.
If those 6 persons are not unacceptable, that is what the Constitution says.
What is wrong with that constitutionally, Your Honors, is that in effect, the leader of the opposition can force an appointment.
No, he's not forcing an appointment. He's forcing an appointment among 6 persons who are not unacceptable.
President?
And that is what the Constitution says. I am getting the impression from you
Yes, sir.
that you are interpreting the Constitution to mean that the president can simply appoint whom he wishes.
Indeed
That
not.
was what was in the previous Constitution. And there was a whole Herdmanston Accord and deliberations that said, we don't want that anymore. But you still seem to be stuck in what was there before.
With respect, Your Honor, I was hoping to depart from that and to indicate to the court that if there is previous dialogue, when the leader of the opposition leaves that transaction of previous dialogue and the submission of the names, it still falls within the president to reject the list then. To reject the list.
So
now, if the other side...
Just a minute. I want to get your submission properly. You're saying that even when the leader of the opposition submits a list of eligible persons, all 6 of whom are not unacceptable to the president,
Yes, Your Honor.
it is still permissible for the president to reject all of them. That's what you're saying?
The Constitution seems to be saying
No, it doesn't. Where? Where does it seem to say that?
the Constitution is saying...
Well, we have your
that the
submission. I think you
question-
should move
yes.
on from that because...
Permit me, Your Honor. The Constitution, if now, the court will know that I have not accepted the position as to a sequence of events. I have not accepted the position that the question about acceptability must be determined prior to the submission of the list. My submission remains that the question of acceptability follows on the submission of the list. And that is the constitutional language. The Constitution says to be appointed by the president from a list of 6 persons, not unacceptable. That's the sequence.
And then it says submitted by the leader of the opposition.
Yes, submitted by him.
Once there is a list of 6 persons that are not unacceptable to the president, he has to appoint from that list.
He must select one of those 6 persons.
And if he finds at least one who is acceptable, or non-unacceptable, as
No, but if all
as the
6 are
language
acceptable,
says.
then at least one must be acceptable, don't you think?
The point is this, Your Honors. The point is this, that the Constitution does not force 2 transactions, and that's the point.
He must select one of those 6 persons, and that is coming from the bench. That is coming from the judges at the CCJ.
No. That was being repeated by the judges of the CCJ. That's coming from our Constitution.
Coming from our Constitution, yes.
That's coming from our Constitution.
And
Our
hence they
Constitution
said, what is
speaks to
wrong?
these
What is
matters.
wrong with that? What is wrong with a list being submitted that is non-acceptable? That was the whole point of the Hermanston Accord.
Exactly. The Hermanston Accord, that system was used to remove the previous system where the president was a sole thing, where the president alone. He made his decision. That was changed. And they came up with this charter formula to use. So nothing is wrong with what the language in which the Constitution speaks. The Constitution is clear. Look, the leader of opposition submit a list of 6 names to the president, who then choose a name from among the 6. This worked from when to now.
Yep.
This is the first time under the first president that this system fails.
And I'm happy to see that the judges are very aware of what's going on. And they said quite clearly that the attorney seems to be stuck with this archaic interpretation of that section.
The attorney, in my view, this is my humble view, the attorney was misled in the language to which the Constitution speaks. Maybe he will serve one of the previous Constitution with these amendments, and he just take this word about. He not certain of what. This is my view. If he was certain, he would have made the proper announcement.
We have a caller on the line. Let's hear what's the caller's view. Good evening, caller.
Good night, Susan, and your guest, right?
Good night.
Right. This government don't respect law. They do what they feel to do. If they share friends and family, they put in a position. Nobody is not fit and proper for them. And today, they find jobs of 4-person former minister in those men in cabinet. And young people, though, 2-3 years looking for a job, can't get the job. We need this government to come out of power urgent. Them solving no purpose. Young people can't get jobs no way. And 4 ministers will resign, get jobs, bigger position, and each one get 4 positions in the cabinet now.
Well, they found jobs for 4 persons today, so kudos for them.
Immediately. A bigger position. And the next thing on it is back. In the morning, if you go to work, the inspector stopping in front of my guy bridge, stopping all the traffic who going down to town, allowing the bridge people to come over. And this traffic is building up, and nobody in the authority is not looking to it. They cannot speak to the traffic chief, and nobody will in charge of traffic. We need somebody to come out, the commissioner of police, to do something. Because the senior officer, we got their position, nobody can talk to them. They got the attitude to them. Thank you very much.
Okay, caller, thank you. That seems to be the attitude from the top coming all the way down. This attitude of arrogance, that is a common thread within this administration, and it's being passed down and including in the police force.
I want to say this. I want to call Anisha's attention to this. That where this whole play is happening, this is the whole play happening here. Resign as a minister, but except of Mr. Greenidge, with the exception of Mr. Greenidge, I think in the foreign ministry, the institutional knowledge is needed. So, but come on, Rupert, Ryan, Gaskin, they could go. No purpose these guys serving. They can go.
Well, they were playing musical chairs on Labor Day,
Yeah.
and now they're actually playing.
Yeah. Practice make it perfect.
Yes. Good evening, caller. You're on the air. I think we lost that. Good evening, caller.
Hello. Hi, good night.
Good night.
I am looking at your program.
Uh-huh.
What I want you to do
Turn the volume TV down.
is to get hold of those tapes and on your program, play it so that the Guyanese people, the nation would see how dunce those liars are. Right?
Yes.
But it's a very interesting program you have, and continue to enlighten the Guyanese people.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for coming through. Caller, you're on the air. Oh, so sorry. We missed that caller. Go ahead.
I beg to differ a little bit from the caller. I don't want to go down the road and say these lies are very dunce. It's just that they are misinformed. They are misinformed, and they were misguided also. To think that, look, this constitution costs $2,500. Everybody in Guyana can actually own one, especially after the no confidence motion. And a lot of people get glued to constitution. You know, when in 2014, when this government was opposition at the time, and Donald Ramata was president, and the prorogation came, people never heard about prorogation before. And people would want to know if this was legal. So everybody get by the constitution and start paying attention. So to come and tell people that, oh, the president alone could make the decision of appointing a person, yes, that could happen, but that got a condition where that could happen. And the condition when that could happen is if the opposition leader failed to produce a list, then the president could use that option.
Further to the caller's point, what I would say is that even if you're given an argument that is nonsensical or really doesn't make sense, even the brightest lawyer, I don't think can argue a case. And that brings us to maybe the worst argument of all, which is the majority argument. So that brings us to the consolidated appeals on the no confidence motion, which the CCJ heard on the 9th and the 10th.
There is not really a majority argument in my mind, or the absolute majority argument. The absolute majority of 65 is territory. You can go around it with any gymnastics you want. That will happen. It's stated clearly of all the members who vote in. Of all 65 voting, the absolute majority of that is territory.
Correct. Caller, good evening.
Hi, good night, Suzanne.
Good night.
Look so beautiful tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted the gentleman on his right hand here. I want to know if he truly believes that these lawyers are misinformed. Is it possible that these lawyers could be misinformed on simple issues like that? That they have to go to the CTJ for this panel to correct them. The things that could be corrected, as he is saying, it is spelled out clearly in the Constitution.
Then let me ask you, if it is spelled out clearly in the Constitution, and the lawyer has one of these in his possession, he got one, as we would say, he got one of these things in his hand, in his possession, and the article lies within this, and he's not paying attention to it, and he's quoting something else, what do we call that?
No, he is deliberately misinforming himself.
That's what I said. You were saying deliberate, and I said they're misguided.
Yeah, but he's not being misled. He is misleading himself deliberately for his own purpose.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Okay, thanks.
I agree.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing legal gymnastics. They are doing all sorts of contortions, bending and twisting the law to suit them. But, you know, the one judge, Justice Anderson, did say, I cannot believe we are here. He said, I am astonished that
Why
we are here.
Why we
with,
are here?
With this argument. Caller, good evening.
Hey, good night. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, good night, Susan.
Good night.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, I tried to get on a lot of time for this program. It was the first time I saw you on the television.
Okay, well, you got through tonight.
I got to tonight for the very first time.
Okay, I'm glad you kept trying.
Yeah. I find your program to be very interesting,
Okay, thank you.
and I think I know you, and I never believed that you would have come a television person. Anyway, my contribution tonight is this government is more interested in robbing the young people, as I must say, because they keep providing work for the older folks. The older folks have the NIS and they have the pension, and they don't have the strength to really go about and get things done. So I was saying that the old people guide the young people and let the young people work, you know, and just look over and put them in good jobs, and they can go about doing the normal life routine. And when the young people get old again, you get the next set of young people in position which can work, because you know you can't take away nothing from youth. Youths are done youths already.
Right.
But these old people, them, I don't know, they have a way into really, you know, getting themselves like the Judge Patterson and even some of the ministers, them, very, very old, and I just can't understand where we're heading, you know.
Yes.
That's my contribution. I just wanted to set up about a little bit of it.
All right, thank you for coming through. So this speaks a lot to what the call is referring to is cronyism. This government rose to power condemning the PPP for some of these practices, and they turn out to be so much worse when they promised to do better. And they especially made a lot of promises to the young people, and they have just cast the young people aside, as the caller said.
Look, they were the youths for going jail. Remember that whole slogan? The youths for going jail. Just at Tamari Park, there was this big sign, job opportunity. Where are these things now? Where are the stands now with these things?
Well, it was only only a short time after, right after the honeymoon phase, in 2015, that the president said it's not his job to create jobs, and from there there's nothing left to see if that is what the leader of the nation is saying.
But jobs is being created now for some people who gone over the hills.
For their own people. Now I want to. There was a striking moment for me on the 9th, the hearing on the 9th, and I recall specifically when members of the opposition, when we were calling for elections to be held on March 21st of this year, not on the Constitution required that elections be held in 3 months, according to Article 106(7). And we were calling on the president to set a date for elections, otherwise we would be in a constitutional crisis. They found that, the members of this government found that hilarious for some reason. You know, what you talking about, a constitutional crisis? You know, it's business as usual. I would like to play another clip for you, a short clip on that same topic. This is the lawyer for Gecom, Mr. Marcus, an exchange with him and the judges of the CCJ. Have a look.
Elections must be held within 3 months because a vote of confidence or a vote of no confidence has taken place, and as a result, the natural consequence under the Constitution is that there must be an election. So it seems to me that the Commission must, at every stage, put itself in a position where within a 3-month time frame, it is able to handle an election, because that is always possible. And if that situation were to occur, then the normal strategic plan that you had of doing this in that time frame and doing that in that time frame would have to be adjusted.
Well, my Lord, may I with serious respect, I would submit that, bearing in mind that elections occur on 5-yearly periods.
No, this is the point I'm making, Mr. Marcus. You see, that is the normal situation.
Yes.
But the Constitution makes provision for abnormal situations, because the Constitution allows for votes of no confidence to be made and for Parliament to be dissolved, for the National Assembly to be dissolved. And the natural consequence of that is that you must have an election within 3 months. So the point I'm making is that while the Commission could have a plan for elections taking place every 5 years, which normally is the case, it must also have a plan just in the event that you have a situation as might well have been the case here.
Yes, when you know the parties are so close, 33, 32, there must be a serious danger of this emergency situation happening.
May I say, Your Honours, 1067 should be read as a whole. We should not emphasize only that aspect that says elections must be held within 3 months. The framers of the Constitution envisaged that you may have these extraordinary circumstances, and therefore they went on to say that you must have the elections within 3 months or such other time as the National Assembly may.
By a 2/3 margin. Suppose you can't get the 2/3.
So that, if I may put it this way, 3 months within Section 1, Article 107, is a directory period. It directs, it's for guidance. It's not absolute in a sense, because implicit in the provision itself, it tells you that it is envisaged that this will not be possible or final for one reason or other. One does not know what will happen, but you have got 3 months as a guide. The National Assembly may extend it depending
By a
on the
2/3
circumstances.
margin, not so?
Pardon me, my lord?
Isn't the extension by a 2/3 vote?
Yes, by the National
But
Assembly.
then suppose you
2/3
don't
vote.
get the 2/3 vote.
If you don't,
Yes.
Particularly when it's 33, 32 between the
I
parties.
say, man, when these constitutions are framed, it is expected that they will be administered with some level of maturity. And it is expected that the persons administering them will assure their functions in a mature manner.
Yes, and my point is that Gecom, as you said, is an independent commission. And if the persons in Parliament do not act, to use your words, with maturity, and it is not possible to get that 2/3 majority vote in order to extend the 3-month period, then what is Gecom's responsibility?
Lord, there will be a constitutional crisis. I'm so regret to say, if you cannot get the members of the National Assembly to act in a responsible and mature manner to do what's necessary, then we're going to have a constitutional crisis. If I may go on to say, it is really not for the court to exercise certain functions like naming a date and naming time frames.
There will be a constitutional crisis. That is the attorney for Gecom making his presentation to the CCJ. So it's not the PPP that's saying that. The APNO AFC supporters, their only counter argument, they like to say, you know, PPP propaganda, or they're hearing this from the PPP, and we are forcing elections, and this is all there provided for in the Constitution, and thereby by Gecom's own lawyers' admission, if elections are not called, and as you know they were not called before March 21st, we will be in a constitutional crisis. So I would argue that we're probably in that constitutional crisis right now, because I don't see how these arguments will stand up at the CCJ.
I wish someone would have asked the lawyer, sir, could you tell me what could prevent a constitutional crisis? He is saying if election does not comes between this time, it's going to be a constitutional crisis. And yet at the same time he's saying a whole story going around this thing, trying to make some kind of, maybe work for his pay and somehow.
Caller, good evening.
Yeah, good evening to you.
Good evening.
Enjoying your program.
Thank you.
Could you tell me, why is it saying 34 in it? Is it they already have 34? If the Speaker of the National Assembly agreed, is he not accounted?
No, that's your question?
Yeah, that if the Speaker agreed for no confidence vote.
Okay, but the Speaker doesn't have voting power.
No, but he agreed that
He certified the vote.
Issue resolution.
Yes. But it's not a vote. It's not counted. So
I think what the caller wanted to ask is if the Speaker acceded with the decision on that night, why people question it, or maybe that's the question you wanted to ask the friend in that way. But the thing is this: the Speaker is there to guide the process, to chair the process, and said night the resolution was issued, and when they went back in 2019, January 2019, the Speaker said, when he said in 2018 on the 21st that he's going to be, when they come back, they're going to deal with the consequences.
Consequences, yes.
He thought by then the President and the opposition leader would have met. The Prime Minister accepted the government that fall. The President accepted the government that fall. All of them made speech the night and make all these different things the night. And then wake up some morning when somebody come with some kind of magic.
Well, we know who the person is. Another bright attorney.
So to be.
Caller, you're on the air. Good evening.
Good night. I'm enjoying your program.
Thank you.
One of the liars who's supposed to be representing this government with this 34, 33 issue, why he isn't there? This big Nigerian.
Yeah, that's a question a lot of us have. I mean, if he was the one that came up with this argument, he should be there arguing for that. But he's busy. You see, he's handling all the oil contracts and the oil negotiations. So this is small potatoes for him. He don't.
My next question is that, listening to Lincoln Lewis and them, the opposition is not going to parliament and they shouldn't get paid.
Mm-hmm.
This government provides jobs for 4 ministers who weren't, let's say, dismissed from parliament. With a salary of $1 million a month, one of them getting there is 12 or 48 million per year.
Mm-hmm.
And closing an estate, claiming that they are giving something million or how much millions per year, right? If you add these chaps' salaries, it could have keep the estate running.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I understand. I understand you perfectly. If you also take $1.6 billion away from the dietary expenses that they have now added on, we could more than keep the sugar industry going.
Now we are not hearing
Lincoln Lewis and others are saying anything about these appointments.
Lincoln Lewis is trying to find his way back.
And next thing, when I listen to this, looking to the clips of the CCJ, I wonder what's going through Basil Williams' mind. How these chaps look so idiot. You know, and I think that, you know, the opposition should listen very carefully to his words at the CCJ. If you listen to his words very carefully, he's trying to say that if the CCJ does not rule in the government's favor, then there will be chaos in Guyana.
He's imagining things.
In simple words, so it goes back to show who really are the players in these election mischievous movements, who really the players are. And I guess, you know, the opposition leaders should really keep these words and keep it to show the world that, you know, where these things are coming from.
Yes.
Whenever it occurs. I'm very happy as I get through to your program, you know.
Okay.
I guess, you know, that one week you should show the whole the discussion at the CCJ, so we could able to get, you know, to see what really is.
Yes, it was very interesting. Yes.
And must look at the name. So whenever I call, you know, you must respond to the name.
Okay.
We don't do that.
All right. Have a good night.
You know, this is something, right? Persons are asking the opposition leaders to do all these things and to do all these things. I think we got to remove ourselves away from that somewhat. And instead of putting all this load on one person, why not? Look, the nation heard this thing. Persons in the diaspora heard these sentiments, and the Attorney General echoed. Those persons should put pressure on this thing.
Well, there are all forms of pressure, and my regret is that when Basil Williams and all of those attorneys appeared at the CCJ, they didn't appear in their personal capacity. They didn't appear on behalf of themselves. They were there talking about Guyana, and you know, as much as it was laughable, some of their presentations, you couldn't help but cringe at the same time, because these are the people that are representing us, and you're going all the way to the CCJ with this type of empty argument.
Say what you want to say, whether you're PPP, APNU, AFC, or say what you want to say. Basil Williams is the Attorney General of Guyana. When intellectual, semi-intellectual persons see these kind of arguments, they want to know what we got in the reserve.
Caller, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, caller, go ahead.
Yes, I'm enjoying the program.
Let's speak up.
Can you speak up a little bit? I can hardly hear you.
Yes, I'm enjoying the program.
Okay, thank you.
I was even wondering, just looking into the news the other night, the head political science for the University of West Trinidad, Mr. Vishnu Raghunath, was even wondering the idea that the government going to the CCJ proves that they done the election about their confidence of even going there to prove itself to if as though they don't have no confidence in themselves.
Yes. Okay, caller, thank you for coming through. And so the caller is saying that you know, he gets a sense that they don't have any confidence in their case at the CCJ, and that's probably what may have led the Attorney General to utter the comments he did, that if the CCJ does not rule in their favor, he's already relying on scare tactics.
This is his imagination. That is his imagination. Gone are the days when persons is going to run out on the street and do all these things when they would call them. No. You know why? People had a look. People had a look. For 23 years, nobody had a look. We've seen things through one eye. But then we see both sides of the coins now. See both sides of the coins now. It's not looking good on one side.
Right, so persons will be less motivated because they can't say that they're better off under this government. No way. People are suffering, and we can't wait any longer. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, as I say, the judge says, the government liar says, the country would have run into a constitutional crisis.
Mm-hmm.
That was exactly what would have happened in Guyana. But the two appeal judge overturned the case on the 22nd. That's the day after the 24th, when what was the deadline for the no confidence motion.
Uh-huh.
And they set it for the 22nd, give the government power to fling on back, to keep things going, because they fully well know what they're doing. And I agree with one caller earlier that their liars fully well know what they're doing. Nobody misleading them. They fully well know. They liars are brilliant people. Liars is not what stupid people.
No.
So they fully well
Not
know
supposed
what
to
they
be.
go in there for. They go in there for fight for power.
Except one.
So I think, and I agree with the callers, I wish if you could show the entire clips of the CCJ, what they submit and whatever they discuss in the CCJ court,
Mm-hmm.
and let the public see
Yes.
that the government have some inconvenient liars.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, caller. We'll do that. We'll gather some more clips and let the people see. This is what is going on. This incompetence is just rampant. Not only with the attorneys, it's from top to bottom. It's within all the ministries. Incompetence reeks in this government. And this is a result from 2015. Caller, good evening.
Good evening. What I want to say is that you all spent 23 years in there. When you expect this government in 3 years or a little over to do so much,
That's a question?
what kind of thing is that?
That's a question?
That's a question.
I want to know you all spent 23 years in
Mhm.
there and you all expect this government just going to do as much as they all do.
No.
They're just going there.
No, they can't do as
Are
much.
we
They
supposed to
can't do as
accept?
much. They cannot do as much in the 3 years. In the 4 years, sorry. They cannot share a horse on 1,000 house lots in 3 years. They cannot accomplish all these new schools in 3 years and 4 years, sorry, ma'am. But there's a word as you need to see an indication. You need to see an indication. At what point, ma'am, at what point is the government going to deal with the public servant salary instead of dealing with their own salary? At what point will the government deal with the needs of the youths? At what point when they will start? Will they start when come close to elections? Come on, ma'am, we need to be practical with these speeches. Don't come on the phone and ask questions that don't have no bearings. Give us an indication. Nobody wants this government to create magic. It can't happen. But we need an indication. You need to have an indication of when will they start. They already raised their own pay. This body already got his homes. This body already got his company. When will the needs of the poorer class of people be dealt with? You tell me that.
What have people done for black people?
What have you done for black people?
Yeah.
How much time we got? Let us start from Sapphire. When the black people, as you asked me, used to be put out Sapphire with the dogs. You remember these things? Well, those black people, as you asked me about, got those lands so they can give to the children today. Hello? You need to come here and ask questions that make sense. Nobody is asking this government to make for magic, want to do magic. Mm-hmm. There are things that will take time to accomplish, but we need an indication of these things.
But they have spent the 4 years busying themselves, handing out contracts, raising their own salaries, and taking away some of the benefits that the PPP had there.
The good
What-
call should tell the nation, you know what? When will the president speak to the nation?
What?
In 4 years, how many times the president speak to the nation?
Speak to the- how
In
many
4
times?
years, how many hours did the president speak to the nation in 4 years?
I don't know what we're going to wait for. I know I do not want to see my country go back to before 1992.
Who like retrogression? No one like
To-
retrogression.
To 1992 when the PPP had to come in and this country we were not even considered worthy of borrowing money. We cannot wait and keep sliding back. And also, with the attitude that the government has, this undemocratic attitude, disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. They say one thing, they do something else. They speak about youth and they go and they appoint octogenarians.
In 2015, I think it was the 3rd of May in 2015. You know what Mr. Goins just said? It's going to be a war against crime, a war against corruption, a war against cronyism. This was the president's word in 2015. What happened with these same things now?
All of those adjectives you just mentioned, they
These
now
things are on tape.
describe.
They are recorded. They got recordings of these things.
They now describe this administration fully. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm listening to the program and I'm really enjoying it. I'm a regular listener of the program.
Okay.
But one of the things that I sit down here and I look at the debate of the gentleman you have on your right, which is my left. Now, you seem to be speaking with your anger. Now, this is a calling program. Now, people, not everybody might be intellectually bright and maybe be able to call in and ask that question. And, anybody might be, a sensible question or a non-sensible question. Well, not because of what you ask, but, you have to go on like if you're quarreling and you plead with people. People have to be professional, all right?
Sir,
Thank you very much.
I'm
All right,
always
thank you.
professional, but I ain't a chicken. I'm an aggressive person by nature.
Dion is very spirited, especially when it comes to certain issues.
And look, you can't ask questions and you want to throw your thing out there and I must sit down as if I'm an ice crusher and the comment of meltdown. No. You ask a question, I give you an answer. And I speak firm.
Well, we're coming down to the end of program time. Any last comments, Dion?
The thing is this. For the last 4 years, this nation has been robbed of proper leadership. The nation advantage have been taken over the nation when it comes to the contracts, when it comes to the youths, when it comes to development, when it comes to accountability. It's time for that to end. The way that will end is by calling the elections and remove, I don't want to say this government, but remove this dictatorship that is here. That is my final comment.
And viewers, thank you again for tuning in. I am confident that our case at the CCJ is solid, and I do hope that the CCJ will set a timeline for elections, and it is our duty, the opposition's duty as well as every Guyanese, to come out and to show that we respect the Constitution, to demand that elections be held, and to come out and vote. Vote for the PPP. You have seen our record, and we are asking that you put us there. Let us take care of you. Let us take care of Guyana, and let us get rid of this dictatorship government for us and for our children. Do enjoy your evening, and I will see you back here next week, Tuesday. Have a good night.